Arch Manning or Matthew Caldwell, regardless of who's playing quarterback, the Texas offense needs to make some crucial changes to get a win on Saturday. What do they need to do? Let's dive in on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK, Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. We will start our Vanderbilt preview, plus the analytics still like Texas's chances to make the college football playoff. We'll get to those topics in a bit. But first, for the Longhorns to take down Vanderbilt, and more importantly, for Texas to end the year on a heater, to quote Steve Sarkisian, they're going to need to make a few fundamental changes to their offense. 3 of them, to be exact. And the numbers back it up. We'll get to those in a second. The 3 changes: go faster, throw the ball more, stick with 11 personnel. Think about the fourth quarter against Mississippi State. Texas did all 3 of those things. What happened? The best offensive stretch of the season. No, I'm not saying you should spot your opponent a 17-point fourth quarter lead every week. That's not a part of this. But I am saying that you can do some of what worked on offense in that fourth quarter before you get down by 3 scores and have to enter full desperation mode. I promise some stats. We'll give some credit to On Texas Football for some of the research here. Texas has played 5 Power 5 games so far this season. 4 in the SEC, the season opener against Ohio State. The Longhorns have scored 11 offensive touchdowns in those 5 games. 1 against Ohio State, 3 against Florida, 1 against Oklahoma, 1 against Kentucky, and then 5 this past Saturday against Mississippi State. The average offensive touchdown drive for the Texas Longhorns against Power 4 competition takes 6.2 plays and only 2 minutes and 31 seconds off the clock. We're excluding the untimed overtime touchdown against Mississippi State, but that was only a 3-play drive. The Longhorns scored pretty quickly in that one too. Now, even with that being pretty quick, there is an outlier here. The third quarter touchdown against Oklahoma, the first possession of the second half in the Red River Shootout, that 14-play, 75-yard drive that took more than 7 minutes off the clock, far and away the most plays that Texas has had in the scoring drive and the longest drive that Texas has had this season. If you take that drive out, you're left with an average scoring drive of 5.33 plays and an average length of 1 minute and 48 seconds. So with that long drive, we're talking 2.5 minutes. Without it, 1 minute, 48 seconds. That is incredibly fast, and it shows you that the Longhorns are at their best when they are using tempo. Even more, this one blew my mind. Rational thought tells you that when you're playing with the lead, you're supposed to slow things down and try to drain some clock, right? Protect the lead. Well, there's not a lot of rational with this 2025 Texas offense with how up and down they've been all year long. Of those 11 touchdown drives, you know how many of them have happened when Texas was leading a football game? About 0. Yeah, that's a real stat. The Longhorns have not scored an offensive touchdown in a Power 4 game with a lead all season. 4 of the 11 came when the game was tied. 7 of the 11 came when Texas was trailing. A lot of the times they've been trailing, they've gone up tempo, and it has worked. Only 2 of those 11 possessions have lasted longer than 3 minutes. So in 5 games against Power 4 teams, you have 2 touchdown drives on offense that have gone longer than 3 minutes. What does that say? Maybe go faster, and maybe go faster earlier. That's change number 1. Change number 2, throw the ball more. Diving back into those same 11 possessions, only 2 of 11 have seen 3 rushing attempts or more. Only 1 running back rush has gone for more than 10 yards across all 11 touchdown drives. There have been 14 explosive plays across the 11 touchdown drives, 1 explosive run, 2 explosive scrambles by Arch Manning, which were pass plays that broke down and Arch decided to take off and run, and then 11 passing plays from Arch Manning to Texas wide receivers. No tight ends, no no tight ends, no running backs responsible for those explosive passing plays. We'll get more to the tight end position in a moment. But how about that? And those 11 explosive pass plays have accounted for nearly 62% of all yards gained on the touchdown drives on just 16.9% of the snaps. So again, 11 touchdown drives against Power 4 teams. Only 1 running back attempt has gone for more than 10 yards on those possessions, and you only have 1 explosive play from a running back on those drives. What does that tell you? Maybe air it out a little bit more. I mean, this team can't run the ball. It's obvious. 5 games against Power 4 teams. They're averaging 94.6 yards per game on the ground. In the 4 SEC games, the Longhorns ranked 14th in the SEC in rushing yards per game. And they also only have 1 rushing touchdown in conference play, which ties for dead last in the SEC. I know Trey Wisner and CJ Baxter are both playing right now. They're both healthy, but I don't think either of them are 100%. And this offensive line, I put more of the run game struggles on them. Feels like they're creating holes 0% of the time. I'm not saying run it 0 times per game. That's not going to happen, and that shouldn't happen. But Steve Sarkisian channeling his inner Mike Leach could be very helpful. You've been a lot better through the air than you have been on the ground. Proof is in the pudding. And last but not least, the personnel packages, right? Steve Sarkisian has relied heavily on 12 personnel all year long. 1 running back, 2 tight ends, especially early in the year when Emmett Mosley and DeAndre Moore were battling injuries. But even when those guys came back, even since then, we've seen a lot of tight ends getting a lot of run. Against Mississippi State this past Saturday, 5 different tight ends played. Diving back into those 11 touchdown drives. I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record here, but these were pretty eye-opening to me, and I'm hoping it's doing the same for you. Snaps out of 11 personnel. 37 snaps, 481 yards. That's 13 yards per play for Texas in 11 personnel on those touchdown drives. Snaps out of 12 personnel. 28 of them for 117 total yards. That's 4.17 yards per play. So you're at 13 yards per play with just 1 tight end on the field. Again, 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end. You're at barely over 4 yards per play with 2 tight ends on the field. What are we doing with 12 personnel? What are we doing here? 13 yards per play. That is incredible. You are averaging a first down on 11 personnel on those possessions. Texas has had 8 plays of 25 yards or more in those 37 snaps out of 11 personnel. They've had just 3 explosive plays out of 28 snaps in 12. And 2 of those were Arch Manning scrambles that I talked about earlier that were called pass plays that broke down, and he just had to take off and go. I mentioned the 5 tight ends and how they all played in Starkville. Those 5 players ranked in the bottom 8 of the Texas offense in terms of Pro Football Focus grades. Unfortunately, that room is just a bunch of Jags right now. Emphasis on right now, by the way. I think there's some potential there. I think there's some bright futures in that tight end room. But you just don't have a difference maker at tight end, whether it's the passing game, and you really don't have one in the running game either. And this is something that we talked about a little bit yesterday, and I know I've harped on a couple of times throughout the season. Like, common logic says when you have an offensive line that's not playing well, have some extra tight ends out there to help block and mitigate your O-line problem. But the problem is the Texas tight ends aren't blocking either. So instead, you just have more guys not doing anything, when if you have more receivers out on the field, those are guys who could actually be, catching the ball and making plays for your offense. You're taking away weapons that you can get the ball to when you're in 12 personnel, because you don't really have weapons at tight end right now. 12 personnel in the red zone, fine. I can live with it. But between the 20s, you don't need to be doing that stuff. So there you go. In conclusion, 3 things to help this offense get into a more consistent rhythm before they're in full crisis mode. Go faster, air it out, less 12 personnel. I think the sample size is big enough, 8 games, 2/3 of the season, for me to feel pretty good about making those changes. What say you? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What do you want to see from the Texas offense this Saturday against Vanderbilt? Speaking of Vanderbilt, let's talk about this Vandy team a little bit. Steve Sarkisian gave his thoughts on this matchup and also on defending Diego Pavia. We'll let you hear from the head coach next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every single ride. They've got more IIHS top safety pick awards than anybody else. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but in a Mazda. Smooth handling, intuitive controls. How about all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV? So you can drive not only in style, but also with confidence throughout almost any season. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. It's Mazda. Move and be moved. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. 9th-ranked Vanderbilt will be in town this weekend. Yes, you heard that right. 9th-ranked Vanderbilt. The Commodores find themselves ranked in the top 10 for the first time since the 1940s. They were the biggest surprise in America in 2024 when they went 7-6 and 3-5 in the SEC. Pretty good encore so far, I'd say. They're 7-1 right now. They already have the same number of SEC wins this year as they did throughout the entirety of last year. They're 3-1 in the conference right now, and just a game out of first place. And just to show you how good Vanderbilt has been this year and how unexpected this year has been, despite what they did a season ago, the Vegas over-under for Vanderbilt wins this season, 5.5. Even though Diego Pavia was back and the head coach Clark Lee was back and Eli Stowers, a number of crucial pieces did return. Most people expected Vanderbilt to just kind of go back to being what Vanderbilt football has always been in our lifetimes. That obviously has not been the case. And something unique about this Vandy team, in an era where up-tempo offensive football seems to dominate, the Commodores like to slow things down. They limit possessions. They want to out-physical you at the line of scrimmage. And hey, look at the record. Those things have been working. Steve Sarkisian, in his opening statement at his Monday presser, talked about Vanderbilt a little bit and kind of dove into what makes the Commodores so hard to play against. Here's the head coach.
I think Clark Lee's done a tremendous job with this program. This team it plays like a team. You know, they know their style of play. They minimize possessions. They huddle, they shift, they motion, they do a lot of different things offensively, but they limit your possessions. They're a very efficient offensive football team. And then conversely, defensively, they play really well. They play collectively together. They've got an elite field goal kicker. They've got an elite kickoff returner. So they're an all three-phase team, and it's going to take all three phases to battle and compete. Obviously, the quarterback is the tip of the spear. He's one of the more competitive, players that I've competed against. He's their leading rusher. He obviously passes the ball. He makes plays at critical moments when they need to have it. And so he's a guy that he's getting all the praise that he's getting is well deserved. He's a very good football player, and I think one thing about playing quarterback, it's not always about the passes you throw. It's not always about the runs you make. It's about instilling belief in your teammates and instilling belief in your organization, instilling belief in your fan base. And I think Diego Pavia has done that for that program. And so all the credit in the world to him, all the credit in the world to Clark and the start that they've had to the season. So it's going to be a heck of a challenge for us. Looking forward to it. Like I said, I think we've got a re-energized team. Looking forward to getting back home at DKR.
There's Steve Sarkisian talking about Vanderbilt, and of course ending that by talking about being excited to be playing a home game. Yeah, the first home game for the Longhorns in 42 days. Crazy how long it's been since they've hosted somebody else. This is the first home SEC game of the season, and it's taking place on November 1st. Absolutely insane. You heard Steve Sarkisian spend a lot of time talking about Diego Pavia there. Of course, he is the straw that stirs the drink. Easy for me to say. That guy's become a household name with what he's done over the last year and a half. I mean, when's the last time a Vanderbilt quarterback has been a household name? Like Jay Cutler? Probably back in the early 2000s. It's been a long time since they've had a player really at any position who's that good, but at the most important one, yeah, Pavia is a game changer. Of course, he's got some personality and he rubs people the wrong way and people hate on him for that, but it is hard to hate on him for the skill. He has been balling and he has been a huge part of this Vanderbilt turnaround. And if the season ended today, Diego Pavia would be in New York. I don't think he'd win the Heisman Trophy, even though he disagrees. He made that clear last weekend, but he would definitely be a finalist. He has been one of the best players in college football, again, not only this season, but for the last year and a half, and he is a tough guard. I mean, he's confident as all hell. That helps. Vanderbilt's not going to be intimidated by the 100,000 plus at DKR. They're not going to be intimidated by the Longhorn logo on the side of the Texas helmet. They're not going to be worried that, oh, they're an underdog in this game. None of that stuff matters to them. He is a confident guy, and that is a confident bunch coming to Austin this Saturday. But Diego Pavia, he's a tough guard. I mean, the skill set, that's what matters more than anything. He's got a very good arm, obviously a great runner of the football, can make guys miss, but also is willing to run over people as well. He is one of the tougher defends in college football. Here is Steve Sarkisian, also from his Monday presser, talking about the challenges of defending Vanderbilt's quarterback.
Well, I think there's layers to what you have to prepare for with him. Is one, the pass game, and his ability to find the big receiver, his ability to find the tight end, and they're very creative in getting him the ball. I think two, the triple option aspect of their offense and him making those decisions in the option game. Three is the direct quarterback run game that they use and the quarterback powers and things. And then four, the ad-lib plays that he makes. He's very good at ad-lib plays. The first touchdown last year against us was an ad-lib play with the sprint out that he ends up scoring on. So you have to defend him kind of in layers, and you've got to be very detailed. You got to have great eye discipline against this group and against him, and you got to make sure you do a great job setting your edges, or he can get on the perimeter on you quick.
So there's Sark talking about Diego Pavia, and yeah, discipline is going to be very, very important, right? Maintaining your edges, pass rush lanes, those things are going to matter. I said it yesterday, I'll say it all week long. Somebody has to be spying Diego Pavia at all times. A lot of teams, I think of the LSU game a couple of weeks ago where Vandy beat LSU before Brian Kelly got fired, and I couldn't believe that LSU was playing so much man coverage on defense, so everybody's all of their defenders had their backs turned to the quarterback, and they didn't have anybody in spy. So Diego Pavia is like, all right, all of y'all are running with my receivers. There's nothing but green grass in front of me. I'm going to take off and run. You can't let Diego Pavia do that. Yes, he is a good thrower of the football. He's put up some pretty good passing numbers this year, 15 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions, but you have to turn him into a one-dimensional player. His legs are what, again, make him very, very tough to stop. So you've got to be smart and disciplined and, again, have a spy. I don't care if Vandy knows that you're going to have a spy on every play. I don't care if they know that it's the same player on every play. You have to do that. And it's interesting. You look at Vandy's stats in SEC games, they don't dominate the stat sheets. Like, they're middle of the road in a lot of major statistical categories. If you look at like their full season numbers, you might see things differently. But just looking at the 4 SEC games that they've played, they're 8th in the conference in scoring, 10th in total offense, 12th in total defense. Nothing ridiculously crazy. But they're 3-1 in the SEC, 7-1 on the year. So they find ways to win. And to call a spade, they played a tougher SEC schedule than Texas has this year. They have played 3 ranked teams so far. And they are battle tested. And again, they're not going to be intimidated by this environment. The thing that Vandy does best, they do run the football incredibly well. Sark said it. Pavia is their leading rusher, but Cedric Alexander, Austin's own, played his high school football at LBJ, is really good. Young is really good. I mean, Vandy has 3 running backs, or I should say 3 players with more than 380 rushing yards on the season. For reference, Texas's leading rusher, Trey Wisner, has 263 yards this season. Arch Manning's number 2 at 199. So They want to slow it down. They want to limit possessions. You heard Sark talk about the triple option and the zone read stuff. That is what they do. That's what they're all about. You can't let them have a consistent ground game against you. You can't let Diego Pavia use his legs either. That's how you could be in some trouble Saturday morning and into the afternoon. All right. We'll obviously do some more Vanderbilt preview. We'll have our crossover episode with the host of Locked On Vanderbilt tomorrow morning. But let's shift gears here. How about some numbers? The analytics really like Texas's chances this weekend, and they also expect the Horns to go on a little bit of a late season heater. We'll dive in next on Locked On Longhorns. But first, some love to our friends at Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with their brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It is their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with all of your favorite Peloton instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs, and they have tools that will help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. They want you to reach all of your fitness goals, personalized class recommendations to keep you engaged. You're going to get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level every single week. This is a total game changer. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, final segment, Wednesday edition of Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. You may have already sold your stock on Texas's college football playoff chances here in 2025, but don't count them out just yet, at least according to the analytics. ESPN's FBI says that Texas has a 41% chance to make the field of 12 right now. Not great, but obviously not impossible. How big is Saturday? With the win against Vanderbilt this weekend, the Horns' chances will improve to 53%. Better than half. Not too shabby. With the loss, they fall to 14%. And considering a road trip to Georgia and a matchup against undefeated A&M are still on the schedule, honestly, 14% feels a bit generous. You've got to run the table if you lose this one this weekend. I don't know if Texas is going to be able to do that. So, long story short, you obviously aren't guaranteed a spot in the CFP with the victory on Saturday, but those calling this one a must-win, yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, Texas's chances with a win over 50%, with a loss down to just 14%. Big swing there. More from the analytics. ESPN's FPI predicts that the Horns are going to go 3-1 in the month of November. Would you take that right now, considering the fact that 3 of your final 4 games are against top 10 teams? I mean, that'd likely mean 2 top 10 wins. Of course, the rankings for Georgia and A&M could change by the time we get to those matchups, but still, it's 2 ranked wins at minimum and likely a rivalry victory over Arkansas. I think I'd take that. 3-1 down the stretch here. I mean, that guarantees you a win over either Georgia or A&M. Obviously, if you lose to Vanderbilt, 3-1 would guarantee you wins over both Georgia and A&M. Yeah, I'm in for a 3-1 finish. That's a 9-3 record on the year. That's 6-2 in the SEC. That gives you a shot, maybe an outside shot, but that gives you a shot to get to Atlanta and a shot to hear your name called when the college football playoff bracket comes out in early December. I'd love to hear from y'all, by the way. Comment below. Would you take 3-1 down the stretch? Looking at this Saturday's game individually, the Longhorns' win probability, according to ESPN, 70.5%. How about that? Vandy is ranked number 9 in the country, ahead of Texas. They've got a better record than Texas, yet the formula still likes the Longhorns. 70.5% chance for Texas to win. Now, I don't think these numbers factor in Matthew Caldwell potentially starting over Arch Manning. That will obviously make a difference in what happens on the field. But, man, even if Arch was 100% healthy, 70.5% feels pretty optimistic. That's a little more optimistic than I am. I feel good about Texas's chances to win, but I'm more at like 55% than I am 70 right now. The game at Georgia, of course, following next weekend's bye, that's the only game that Texas is not projected to win by the analytics. The Longhorns at 40.3% win probability right now. means Georgia is at 59.7. So basically a 60-40 right there. I'll be honest with y'all. That's a bit more optimistic than I feel too. I have had this Georgia game as a loss since the summer. Like even seeing Texas as the preseason number 1 team in America and thinking this team was going to be a lot better than they are right now, I never saw Texas going into Athens and getting a win. Now, I will say this. We have seen somebody go into Sanford Stadium and beat Georgia this year. That was Alabama. So it can be done. First time someone won at Georgia since 2019. So it can be done. But again, 40% chance, that's more confident than I am in Texas. We'll obviously see how the Longhorns play this weekend. Georgia plays Florida and Mississippi State these next 2 weeks. We'll see what happens with the Dogs as well. And then the final 2 games, Arkansas and A&M, both here in Austin. The Horns given an 84.5% win probability against the Hogs. That feels about right to me. Not 100%. Arkansas's got a good offense. They've been competitive in some of these games this year, but they've yet to win an SEC contest. And then the big one on Black Friday, regular season finale against the currently unbeaten third-ranked Texas A&M Aggies. As of this moment in time, Texas has a 57.8% chance to win. Man, A&M has been the better team so far. There's no debate there. But I will always like our chances against little brother. Like, I don't think I'll ever pick Texas to lose to A&M. I don't think I'll ever pick Texas to lose to Oklahoma. That's just, y'all see the logo on my hat. Maybe that's just my biases coming in. Maybe. That definitely is my biases coming in here. But, I like Texas's chances against Texas A&M. I always do. Again, we'll know way more about both of these teams by the time we get to the day after Turkey Day. I'm hoping Texas looks a little better in these next 3 games. I'll definitely be feeling more confident if that happens, and feel more confident if A&M slips up along the way too. But ESPN, again, the analytics still say that Texas is going to beat A&M despite what the records and the rankings show. So there you go. The 4-letter network still says the Longhorns have a shot to make the college football playoff, and they say that a 3-1 month of November is very much within reach. What say you? Again, would you take that? But also, do you feel that that is possible for the Longhorns in the final month of the regular season? That's going to do it for today's show. If you made it this far, number 1, God bless you. Number 2, please remember to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. All of those great things. Really appreciate y'all's continued support of what we are building here with Locked On Longhorns. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets. My man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have you covered. They are your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs, expert analysis, game picks. They're giving out free picks every single day. Oh, yeah. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. More Vanderbilt preview. Actually, we'll have our crossover episode with Corey Burton of Locked On Vanderbilt coming up tomorrow morning. But that'll do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.